Hey everyone, welcome back to Bible Verse Breakdown. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down Romans chapter 15 verse 1, which reads, "We then that are strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak, and not to please ourselves." So what Paul is essentially saying here is that there are some of our fellow brethren in the faith who might be interested in doing what he wants, but they're in a situation where they're tempted to do something that's wrong. And we can help them to try to get out of that situation or prevent them from falling into it in the first place. Paul said in Romans chapter 14 verse 15 that our lifestyle shouldn't be a stumbling block to our fellow brethren. "But if thy brother be grieved with thy meat, now walkest thou not charitably. Destroy not him with thy meat, for whom Christ died." The meat here is the lifestyle. So if the way we live is making some people to get tempted to do what is wrong, then we're not really showing charity. But on the other hand, if we do certain things to take people out of that state of temptation, who are sincerely interested in doing what is right before God, then we are loving our neighbors as ourselves. If you read Galatians chapter 5 verse 14, Leviticus chapter 19 verse 18, and Romans chapter 13 verses 9 and 10. And now I'm going to give you a few scenarios in which we can show that kind of love. For example, if you are someone of means, you've made some money, and you see someone who's poor and is tempted to steal because they're poor, and it's not like they are thieves by nature and enjoy the acts. They don't want to offend God, but they're tempted to because they want to survive. You can take them out of that temptation by supporting them, giving them money to set up a business, giving them money to just live a decent life and get out of that poverty situation. So that temptation will now disappear, thus removing that condition in which they're tempted to sin. That is an example of showing love. Hatred in that scenario is to leave them in that situation for the purpose so that they can continue to be poor, then be tempted to steal, and then God will be angry at them. That is not, of course, how to show love. And if you read 1 John chapter 3, verses 17 and 18, John the Apostle discussed this. He said, "But whoso hath this world's good, and seeth his brother have need, and shutteth up his bowels of compassion from him, how dwelleth the love of God in him? My little children, let us not love in word, neither in tongue, but in deed and in truth." Or if you're someone who's interested in getting married, getting married is actually showing love to the person you're getting married to, because if you're a man, for example, you're taking that woman out of that situation where she may be tempted to fornicate or commit adultery. And the same works vice versa, because our biological urges might continue to burn within us, and it's only when we get married that all of that will cease to exist if we're interested in obeying the laws of God. So that's another way of showing love. And if you read all of 1 Corinthians chapter 7, St. Paul discussed such matters, but specifically in verse 9 and verse 36. "But if they cannot contain, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn." And he added in verse 36, "But if any man think that he behaveth himself uncomely toward his virgin, if she pass the flower of her age, and need so require, let him do what he will, he sinneth not, let them marry." So that is another way that we can get out of that situation. And it's also important because it removes our own selves from temptation, which Paul said we should do in Galatians chapter 6 verse 1. "Brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such an one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted." A third scenario is if you're a parent. Showing love to your children is not just by buying them fast food or letting them do whatever they want. In fact, I'm pretty sure many of us know that isn't really showing love. Showing love is about preventing them from seeing certain things that they're too young to see, or maybe not allowing them get addicted to technology, because those things tend to have an impact on their lives later when they become adults, or not allowing them enter certain relationships when it's too early and they're not able to handle it, and a lot of other scenarios which are particular to our individual child. But it's all about wanting them to have the best future so that they're not starting out in this situation where they're full of temptations and then they'll have to try exceedingly hard just to not fall into sin. If you read Proverbs chapter 22 verse 6, King Solomon said, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." And he added in chapter 29 verse 15, "The rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame." That's why it's really important that we don't leave our children alone and we don't have time to raise them, because what ends up happening is that there's so many vices, bad characters that they'll develop as we're not around, and then those things will come to affect them by the time they mature into young adults. So we don't want that to happen while we're not around. And to conclude, if you read Jude chapter 1 verses 22 to 23, Jude essentially summarized this by saying that we can help take people out of that situation where they're tempted to sin by showing compassion to them. He said, "And of some have compassion, making a difference, and others save with fear, pulling them out of the fire, hating even the garment spotted by the flesh." And that is where I'm going to stop on breaking down Romans chapter 15 verse 1, which once again reads, "We then that are strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak, and not to please ourselves." If you have enjoyed this video and liked the way I broke down this verse, then I'd appreciate if you click the like button and also the subscribe button, and you can click the notification bell as well if you want to be notified when I come back with another video. Have a good day, and God bless you.